I've been wanting to react to this Idubbz video from like him criticizing Europeans for basically talking about migration and about the mass migration issue. And I will say this: I'm from the third world. I was born in South America, in in Peru basically. And if you guys don't know, Peru, not only is it one of the countries with one of the seven wonders in the world, Machu Picchu basically would be, and not only is it known for having a rich gastronomy, food culture basically, like Peruvian food basically is like ranked amongst one of the highest. And then the other thing Peru is mainly known for is because of its crime, and apparently ever since El Salvador decided to become the safest country in the world, Peru has now become the most dangerous country in the world, which basically shocked me. I thought it would have been some other country in like Africa or something, but no, it's literally right where I live, or I used to live, because I live in the U.S. now. I became a naturalized citizen after living here for like about 8 years. Entered during the Trump's first administration, and then yeah, I gained citizenship afterwards, and it was all through the legal process. And that's because we have family members that are also citizens in the U.S., so that helps the process. And I felt that, and I wanted to react to this because I, as someone from the third world, can pretty much, from my own experiences and my own knowledge about third world behavior and third world norms, it allows me to better criticize, behavior from third world immigrants. Now, sure, it will not be the same because, like Latin Americans from the third world behave differently than, say, Africans or Middle Easterners from the third world. Way different, because they each have their own cultures, but there are behaviors and norms that is pretty much common amongst those countries, and that's because of the lack of security and authority enforcement, and because there's a bunch of corruption and a bunch of black pill sentiment. And anyways, and also the other issue I wanted to talk about is because I've had a family member that had a work visa for, like, because her, like, the company that she works at gave her a work visa to work at Paris for 5 months. And so within those 5 months that she lived there, she basically managed to experience Paris. She managed to experience rural France, like the villages in France. She also went to Spain and, like, I think somewhere in Italy. So, like, she visited many places within those 5 months. And then afterwards, when I went back to my home country for during summer break for like around 20 days, I met up with her, and she told me, and I basically told her about, like, so is it true that all of this stuff is going on in Europe or like Paris? And she basically said yes. She said that in Paris there's a bunch of like pickpockets, there's a bunch of random people that just look sketchy, and like, and also she says that going on the subway at night is like really dangerous because we see, like, you literally see gangsters, and they're usually from, like, they're not actual French gangsters, they're like non-French gangsters, they're like from North Africa or like somewhere around the world. And so her experiences in France, in Paris, literally is the same experience that many Europeans are seeing. So that's why I wanted to see this Idubbz video where he's basically trying to mislead people. And here's the thing, Ian, I'm sure Ian is probably part of the Democrat Party, same as me, and I'm sure he's pretty much way more liberal than me and more left wing. But the thing that Ian is getting wrong is that Ian Idubbz, he basically is trying to willfully ignore any negative aspect that comes with immigration. And I will say this: there is good people and bad people in every single group. If there's a group and the people in it are humans, there's bound to be good people and bad people. That includes politicians, that includes military people, that includes citizens, that includes immigrants, that includes anyone. Religious groups, anyone, any group will have a good people and bad people. I know that. I know that. I've met plenty of good religious people, and I know there used to be bad religious people because they used religion as an excuse to justify oppression and inhumane tactics towards innocent people, basically. But that's history. But you learn about that so that you know that not everything is like rainbows and roses and all good stuff. No, everything has a good side, everything has a bad side. It's basically like the yin and yang. It's the perfect balance. One cannot exist without the other. If there isn't bad stuff, you will never be able to treasure the good stuff. That's why I want to, and so the thing that Ian does is that he's willingly ignoring any negative aspect that comes with immigration, and now and especially illegal immigration. And I would say, and I'm saying this as someone who knows personally uh, illegal people, and they're obviously not the same as like the gangsters and the violent people that are illegals. They're way different, but by basically all of them being lumped in together as just immigrants, you know who also gets harmed? People like me who are legal immigrants, because now we get lumped in together. And well, guess what? Don't expect legal immigrants, especially who are naturalized citizens, to not vote in your side, in your favor. It's that simple. If you're living a democracy, you need to appeal to the most people. And by trying to basically go after your own audience or your own supporters, you're not doing a smart move. It's kind of like how Trump basically said that you're not a real Trump supporter if you keep talking about Epstein. That's obviously a bad move on his part, because there are plenty of Trump supporters, MAGA supporters, who basically were very interested in the Epstein files, and now they're being told this by someone they basically admire. That's bound to blackpill some people, and I will never forget that time where Trump's response and handling of the Epstein files literally made Alex Jones cry. Alex Jones! That's something you barely see. And so obviously it's not a good idea to go after the people that basically are the reason you are in power. It's kind of like how an authoritarian is basically going after their military supporters. Well, that's a bad idea, because those military supporters are the same people that put you in power, that put said authoritarian in power. That's why you never see, like Kim Jong Un going after his highest generals, because his highest generals are the people who, if they wanted to, they could all order the military to go after him. It's that simple. You never go after your own supporters. You never want to demonize them. If you do that, you're gonna push them away. And yeah, and yeah. So I wanted to say that. So let's watch this in Idubbz
Another
video.
episode of Idubbz Complains. I am coming to you live from Barcelona, Spain.
He's in Spain, in Barcelona. Spain is the country that conquered pretty much almost all of Latin America, and also previous parts of North America too. Like I believe Florida and California were also Spanish territories in the past. So yeah, like Spain was a huge empire back then. Obviously, that wasn't good for the natives there, but it was better than being straight up massacred to extinction, unlike other European empires tried to do back then. But that's history. History is not always a good thing. It's not always full of good things, but it's good to know. And here's the thing: me, as someone from South America, from Peru, a country that was basically a colony of Spain in the past, I have no problem with Spanish people or with Spain as a country. I have no beef with them. And the reason as to why is because Spain has done a good job in basically trying to keep neutral relations with former colonies. And here's the thing. Here's the thing where, like, you see, in Spain you would see plenty of Latin Americans, but you barely see Spanish people complaining about Latin Americans, and the reason as to why is because Latin American countries and Spain pretty much have the same culture, same way of life, and also the same religion. Like in Spain, you had Catholicism, and obviously in Latin America, the Spanish, they tried to convert the natives and spread Catholicism. So obviously that's also influence that also ended up influencing Latin American countries. Same thing with Spain, basically trying to also export its like Spanish culture as well, which led to Latin American countries creating their own cultures, but with Spanish influence, basically Spanish influence, and of course African influence because of the slaves, and of course you also have the natives influence, the indigenous cultures. So all of that gets combined and creates a new identity, a new country, basically a new culture. But we all pretty much behave the same. Like I guarantee you, plenty of Latin Americans almost live the same lifestyles as Spanish people. Like they all go to church on Sunday. They all have like massive like religious parades for like different saints and even Jesus. And of course, they all love parties. They all love parties. Like I guarantee you, there's always a party going on around somewhere. And in Spain, there's also a party going around somewhere. And of course, let's not forget that most of the music they use almost the same instruments for Spanish music, like the guitar, for example. And then we also have there's also the practice of like with the bull, the bull thing, the bull when you're like in a mini coliseum and like you have like a guy with like a piece of cloth and then you have a bull. That's a Spanish thing, and it's still practiced in many Latin American countries today. My home country is a great example. And also, we speak the same language. We speak Spanish. So there's common understanding. So in Spain, the current issue that they have is mainly the issues from like Middle Eastern migrants, because Middle Eastern culture is nothing similar to Spanish culture, and the religion is of course different. Different gods, different kinds of living, and also and so yeah, Spain has improved its relations with Latin American countries and Latin American people, but it hasn't improved so much when it comes to like say Muslims, like the Middle Eastern countries, and that's also because Spain before they also had like a brief period where part of Spain, basically like almost half of the Iberian Peninsula was basically part of like the Muslims caliphates or something like that, like the Muslim empires back in the day, like back that's like before before America was discovered as a continent. So the Spanish and Portuguese, but mainly the Spanish, they have beef with like Muslim countries like ever since then, basically. Like, and obviously like Spain, I guarantee you, as countries, they get along fine. But the problem is the fact that the migrants from Middle East, they don't try to assimilate into Spanish culture, into Spanish society. They try to basically insert their culture and way of living into Spanish society and Spanish culture. And obviously Spanish people, like they don't want that. And so that's how it is. And I'd say that Spain has a right to demand any immigrant to basically assimilate into their culture and society and way of living. Like you don't have to practice Catholicism, you don't have to practice like the Spanish way of living. Just simply keep to yourself, and whenever you're outside in public, just don't bother anyone. And that's not a hard thing to do. It isn't that hard, really. But I guess habits are stronger. And so that's something that's in Spain. I don't know much about France or the UK's. Like, I know some of the like historical colonies, but I don't know really like how like if they have any sort of things with like Spain, for example, like where they try to do basically have like a shared culture or something like that. Because like I would say this, like Spain has beef with France because of Napoleon, and so you have plenty of Spanish people that to this day don't really like French people, and that's vice versa. And of course, it's the same with the English people, from England, like the UK. because of Napoleon again, and of course, because America used to be a former colony of like England and the British. It used to be a British Empire, so you see like America's dislike for like Americans dislike for French people. It's pretty much a meme, by the way. But dislike for French people is because of like the British influence that there's like connection. Well, the same thing happens to Latin America because Latin America is united with Spain and Portugal, but mainly Spain. So there are plenty of like former Spanish colonies. Well, the people in those countries, they also don't like French people because of like the because of like a shared culture basically. But it's all memes in reality. Like I guarantee you, like America, you're putting American, a British, a French, a Spanish, and like some person from like Latin America, like basically like that used to be a former Spanish colony. They will all get along just fine. It's all memes, really, but it's funny. It's funny to see that. It's funny to say yeah. And so yeah, like I just wanted to say that because even though like I don't have any families in Spain, it is pretty much the country that even though it did bad things to my home country and to the natives in my home country, it also brought some cultures. Like I guarantee you, plenty of the music and plenty of the cooking skills that my home country has wouldn't exist today if it weren't for the Spanish influence. That's for sure. So that's something. There are bad things that happen in history, but because of those bad things that happened in the past, good things can exist today in the present. I just wanted to say that.
If you guys aren't familiar with Barcelona, I recommend you keep your eyes on them, because they're looking like a pretty hot team this year. Well, I know the season's coming to a close, but let's just say that some of my boys on the inside.
I know Barcelona is the FC Barcelona. It's basically like one of the biggest and most known soccer groups. We're talking about the group. It basically used to be it used to be like a soccer group where like both the legendary Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi, were in the same team at one point. If I wasn't mistaken, was Cristian Ronaldo. Oh, Cristiano Ronaldo. My bad. It's Cristiano Ronaldo and Lionel Messi. Messi, part of FC Barcelona at some point. But it's not telling me if they were in the same in FC Barcelona. Were they or were they not? Were they or were they not? I literally do not know. Oh, okay. So I think Real Madrid and FC Barcelona. Those are two different soccer groups, and that's where Lionel Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo were. Okay, I just want to know where really. Okay, I think I was mistaken. My bad. That's how unaware I am of soccer. Even though it's pretty much soccer is like a religion in pretty much Latin America. So it's kind of like a that just goes to show you just how Americanized I have become. Because I'm not really into soccer. And I'm not really into sports really. Like I think it's cool, but I'm mainly more interested in like say boxing, but I don't watch it by my own. But like say for example, if someone's watching, like my stepfather loves watching sports, if it's soccer, boxing, basketball, um, uh, baseball, I'll watch it. And I already have teams that I root for. Basketball, it's the Lakers. Um, baseball, it's Dodgers, and for boxing, well, it's not really a team, but like say Canelo, that Mexican guy who's like basically like he's like a ginger and like you would see him and you would think he's American or from some European country, but no, he's Mexican. And like that guy, I support him a lot. Um, I support him a lot. Whenever he boxes, I always root for him. Canelo. Um, and then of course, like in soccer, whenever Messi and Ronaldo are present, I always root for them. I think they're great as players, and of course, like they're great people too. Like their ways of living. I don't know. Okay, so Ronaldo was in Real Madrid, and then Messi in FC Barcelona. Okay, so I was mistaken. But yeah, they're both great people, great players.
I'd have told me that they have been taking steroids, which is going to improve their soccer performance. Today's episode of Idubbz Complains is all about immigration and xenophobia and racism and TikTok.
Wait,
And xenophobia and racism.
Trump? Is this Kanye West? And is this Nick Fuentes? No, no, I don't think so, right? Is he? That is Nick Fuentes. Okay.
And TikTok. And the
TikTok. Oh my god.
TikTokification of xenophobia. The interest in this topic was
Wait.
immigration and xenophobia and racism and TikTok. And the TikTokification of xenophobia.
TikTokification of xenophobia. Here's the thing. I understand that there are people who are racist, that there are people who are xenophobic. But you wouldn't be seeing a bunch of little kids that watch TikTok all day being supportive of these, extreme ideologies if there wasn't some truth in what they were saying. It's that simple. It is, really. Like because TikTok, really, what's the main audience for TikToks? Probably like Gen Z and like Gen Alpha? Because I don't really think there are plenty of millennials that use TikTok. TikTok's is like an app for like for the younger generations. It's kind of like how Instagram is like Gen Z and like millennials, really. I think Facebook is like for the Gen X and boomers. But yeah, okay.
The interest in this topic was spurred on from a guy named Kurt Kaz. Now, this guy Kurt Kaz, he is a travel vlogger. So you would
Ooh, look at them.
think with all the traveling around the world, that would really open your mind to different cultures, different ways of life, and how we're all just people trying to live. But
I mean, here's the thing. When you travel all over the world, it also makes you appreciate your country more and your culture more. Really. Like, after living so much in America, every time I go back to my home country, I am reminded of why I love America. It's safe. You can pretty much say any kind of opinion that you want and not get into trouble. Well, now. Before, not so much. I've seen what happened to Nick Fuentes. That's a really, really a bad thing. I don't think he should have been debanged or banned from all parts of social media. Even though he did say some like weird stuff and like extreme stuff. That's for certain. But like, it's not guaranteed. Like just a 1 week suspension would have been enough. But permabanning him from like all of the thing, that's not a good move. Yeah, that's not a good move. And yeah, like, it really does make me appreciate more this country more. But at the same time, here's the thing. Do you think, especially if you've traveled to Middle Eastern countries like, say, United Arab Emirates, to Kuwait, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, those countries, they are quite, especially when you travel to the cities, they're quite well put together. Like, you don't see random people committing crimes. You don't see random people basically getting violent whenever there's like a camera in front of them. especially when they're selling stuff. You don't see people trying to pickpocket each other. Because I'm just gonna say this: if you think that pickpocketing, stealing, or getting violent whenever there's a camera, whenever people are selling something, is part of a culture, I think you're pretty much looking down at that culture, really, because I guarantee you, like, what if you check out the immigrants' home country and you travel to that home country and you ask the people over there, do you approve of this guy's behavior who's from your home country? Plenty of them will tell you that's some crazy person that deserves to be put in jail or deported. Violence is not a culture thing. It's a universal thing that's really a bad thing. Like, ideally, you don't want violence.
Unfortunately, he's a great example of how you can travel the world, and as long as your mind is fucking closed, everything you see is just gonna confirm your biases.
Look at this. Look at the fucking state of the city. This is Rome, guys.
Like a Casbah.
This looks like in Bangladesh or something. Look at this, guys.
And again, it is true. It's third world behavior. The people in those third world countries, the reason they act and behave the way they do, is because the government has pretty much told these people, you guys are on your own. Don't bother us with your needs or anything. Try to defend yourself. We'll put you in jail. Really. Like in my home country, for example, and I'm sure it happens in plenty of third world countries, if there's a criminal and you try to defend yourself and you end up injuring or killing the criminal, well, you're put in jail. There's no self-defense laws in those countries. And also, the reason people aren't really clean, like, aren't really clean, is because, one, that's the government's job to clean. It's not the people's job. Like, you come to America, I literally, especially like in LA or New York City, it's dirty all the time. It's the government's job to clean that part, especially when people are paying taxes. Like, if people are paying taxes, it's the government's job to clean the city, and they do. You see the trash truck pass by, but the reason is that they're not doing enough to clean. They're not hardcore about it. They don't really care as much about the cleaning. But I'm sure it's different in different states. I'm sure it's more cleaner in rural areas. But in urban areas, even if it's a red state, there will be dirtiness. There will be like trash everywhere, even if the trash truck comes daily. And the same happens in third world countries. The trash truck comes daily, and people still litter. And again, don't blame the people, blame the government. And realistically, you can't really blame people for their government sucking, because most politicians in third world countries tend to lie. They tend to never fulfill their promises. But left wing, right wing, they all say they're gonna improve people's lives. They never do anything. They never try to even attempt to improve the people's lives. So people eventually get blackpilled and they just don't care. And that's what the politicians want. What they want is for the people to not complain, so that way the politicians, they can all just take away all the tax money and literally enrich themselves. Meanwhile, the people in third world countries, they're all basically living in the worst conditions ever. Now, if this guy is complaining, like this TikToker guy is complaining about like this plants and everything, the only logical thing I could say that would be adequate would be the fact that, say, maybe it's not regulated in the sense like, oh, we don't know if this is like rotting, or if this is like, or like maybe it's exposed to like people like, oh, touching it, or like or it's exposed to people basically doing that. Because I guarantee you, like, if you complain that say, oh my god, this is third world behavior, it's not really third world behavior when, say, you have crackheads doing the same. And so yeah, it's basically like a universal thing where, like, whenever there's a lack of authority, people will behave like monkeys. And don't take that out of context. Don't take that out of context. I'm not meaning it in a racial way. I'm meaning it in a basically like humans being monkeys in the past, monkeys being the wild versions of humans, right? So if there's authority, people will behave like proper humans. If there's no authority, people will behave like wild monkeys. They'll be running around, messing everything up because there's no authority that will literally enforce the laws. It's that simple. You don't want people trashing the place, well, simply put heavy fines or put people in jail and tell them, well, if you don't want to spend 5 days in jail, you can spend 5 days cleaning the street, basically. And it will be like a job. 8 hours per day, and then you're free to go. But it's without pay, basically. Eventually, people will stop trashing the place. You don't want people to commit crimes, just put them in jail. Put them in jail or put heavy fines. You don't want people to, and when it comes to this like farmers market or like this like having this stuff like unregulated and a bunch of stuff, just simply hire an inspector and literally tell them, oh, check, is this clean or not, and simple. And the inspector needs to be hired by the government. It's very easy to solve problems, but the reason that politicians in third world countries don't do it is because it costs money, and the money is tax money, and politicians see the tax money as their money. That's why. The more tax money that's used to improve the people's lives and improve the city's basically society and like area, it means the less tax money that they can keep for themselves. It's as simple.
Guys.
What do you mean, or something? I would like to hear.
But the guy isn't wrong, even though he's complaining about it and saying, "Oh, this looks like Bangladesh or something." He's not wrong. I don't know. I don't know. I would not be surprised if people in Bangladesh have like those conditions because it's a third world country. I go back to my home country. It's the same stuff. You have a bunch of dirtiness, a bunch of trashness, and everything. But obviously, not everything has to be compared to a third world country because sometimes it's just a universal thing. Like in a country that, say, for example, you don't really see a lot of third world people, yet the people behave like third world people, then that's not really a third world thing, but rather a just lack of authority thing. But regardless, it's just what's it called? That's just semantics. At the end of the day, it's bad behavior.
Hear more, but you're just saying it looks like Bangladesh. Is that because there's people from Bangladesh here?
No, it's not because there are people from Bangladesh. It's because there are people behaving as if they were in Bangladesh. Like, for example, whenever you go to Mexico, you see people behaving as if they're in Mexico. And one of the things that happens in Mexico is that people don't really tend to listen to the traffic lights, to the traffic signs, and the traffic to the traffic signs, and they all just like speed up, or they just pass red lights, or they turn in areas that they shouldn't turn. But whenever you go to America, people immediately listen to the traffic signs, and that's because there's enforcement. Really, it's that simple. And the same thing in like most third world countries, there isn't a lack of authority. People will behave as if there's no lack of authority. And again, even if you've never been to those countries, you can literally say, this is bad. Even if you've never been to a third world country, you can tell, this is bad. People shouldn't be trashing the place. Foods shouldn't be out there unregulated.
Or are you just assuming where people are from? There's a lot of people with brown skin in the world, and they don't all come from Bangladesh. I don't know, do they have fresh fruit and vegetables in Bangladesh? I mean, that's one indication of my...
I don't think they have fresh fruits in Bangladesh, but they import. That's for sure. Like, for example, Japan doesn't have tons of fruits because their like weather doesn't basically allow them to grow fruits, but they import fruits. That's why in Japan, fruits are seen like a very high value gift whenever you give it to someone, because it's very rare to come across fruits.
I look like Bangladesh. I've seen this guy's videos, by the way. He goes to Bangladesh.
Okay, thank you. Right. Wow, it is madness.
He's gone to a random farmer's market where the population of immigrants is a bit higher than other places in the city. And
well, duh. Like, whenever you're in a city, especially that's like well known and has like it's very tourist centric, you're gonna see people of different ethnic backgrounds more than say in the rural sections of the country. Like that's a no-brainer move. Everyone knows that.
And he's saying, yep, we're in fucking Bangladesh.
Look at the state of this place.
You mind telling us what the state is?
Look at the fucking state of the city.
And again, like he's not wrong. And it doesn't have to be Bangladesh. It can be any third world country. You would see graffitis on the wall. You will see people trashing the place, and that's because there's no authority. But you can always come with the counter argument. Well, if they are in a first world country, wouldn't they behave as if they're in a first world country, even if they're from the third world? Yes and no. They would behave if they were in a first world country, if the authorities in first world countries actually enforce their own laws. Otherwise, it's gonna be the same stuff. People are gonna do the same stuff. So really, most of the complaints is literally you have to go complain to your local politicians, to your local government. Complain to them. Tell them, hey, why are you allowing people to put graffitis on the wall, to randomly throw trash around, to basically do that? And again, the reason he says, oh, it looks like we're in Bangladesh, is because he probably went to Bangladesh and saw the same thing. It's like, for example, if you're an American and say you go to a third world country and here's the thing, if you're in America, and here's the thing, if you're in America or an European or someone in the first world and you live in a specific area where it's basically, how can I put it? It's a gated community, you know, where you are able to have luxury beliefs and everything. Well, in a gated community, you're never going to find people trashing around and people misbehaving. But if you live in, say, a downtown, like you go to downtown LA, you go to Chicago in some public park where there are a bunch of people laying around. If you go to New York City, Times Square, like it's dirty. And if you live or you're near those areas, and if you're French, and you live in Paris, whenever you go to a third world country, you're gonna be reminded, oh, this is like Paris. Oh, this is like downtown LA. Oh, this is like Times Square. It's trash everywhere. So this guy, I don't know where this guy may be from, but he probably lives in an area that's really the trash, the uncleanliness. It's not common. You don't see it often. He probably lives in some gated community or in some rural area or in a city where the authorities actually do their job. And so obviously he will grow up thinking, oh, look, the place where I live isn't unclean. And whenever he meets with unclean stuff, he would probably think, oh, this is third world thing. But in reality, it's not a third world thing. It's just a lack of authority thing. Like again, even in countries where like immigration is very, very, very like hard, there is bound to be some area that's not going to be as good or as well kept or as clean, because that's just how things are. Like you can handle everything. And again, even if it's hard, it's no excuse for politicians and governments to simply say, let's not enforce our laws. They have to keep the city clean. So again, say if you're like in a European country that is constantly clean, you're going to say, damn, this is really so this isn't a first world thing, it's pretty much a third world thing. But if you live in America and you live in Times Square, LA, downtown LA, Chicago Park, and say like you've lived all your life over there, and you know most of the immigrants there, they're not really like, there's not really a huge immigrant population, but people still behave like that, you would say it's a lack of authority thing. So every experience, everything is subjective. All people tend to think extremely, and everything is based off of experiences. Really.
Look at the state of this place. Look at this, guys. Look at this.
But I don't know what the state is. I need you, the vlogger, to tell me what the state is.
It's clear that the guy is saying that it looks unclean and messy.
Look at this, guys. This is Rome. This is Europe.
And again, there is some truth in I would say, like what Idubbz is saying, is that farmers market are very common in first world countries. Very common. They're not necessarily a third world thing. It's something that many first world and European people have done for like thousands of years, even. It's simple. Just look at the medieval stories, the like, you know, like back when the Crusades were a thing. You know, you look at the way people live. They all had a farmers market. So either this guy who's like, you know, basically saying this is Rome, this is Europe, like this guy who's like on TikTok, either he's an ignorant who doesn't even know his European history, or he probably never seen a farmer's market in his life, and the first time he seen one was in a third world country, and decided that it's a third world country thing. But yeah, like it doesn't take a lot to look back at history and know that farmers market, it's actually a first world thing. Like it was really common there. Like medieval, look at the medieval history, look at the Dark Ages. There were a bunch of people who would basically like be the peasants, and they'd be the farmers, and they'd sell their farmers' goods in like a common place where everyone buys them and like exchange money from. If anything, that behavior was brought over to the third world countries during the colonizations and the Empire State era. But even then, it's not a. Even then, it is true that say in before third world countries and first world countries had a connection, like way in the past, they still behave the same way, because like, and even Japan, for example, which was an isolationist country for plenty of years, it's a normal, natural thing to say sell farmer goods in a common place. It's a human thing. So yeah, Idubbz is true in some of his criticisms.
Does this look like Europe to you?
Yes, it looks like Europe to me. What the fuck else are we supposed to gather from this video? It's like this guy, this is so obnoxious. A lot of these guys that we're gonna look at, they have an idea in their head of what European culture is. Their idea of these things is like a caricature. It is like a postcard. It is not like what they're actually experiencing on a daily basis. What are these people doing on a regular basis? Selling and buying a bunch of produce in a market. And he's saying, this isn't Europe. I'm not seeing any white cheese vendors. This is nothing like Europe. This is nothing like Rome.
I don't see a single Italian here, guys.
And I'm just gonna say this. This may be like this may upset a bunch of people, but the world is big, and the world is going to constantly be being united, and so with a united world, you will have migration. Eventually, people will move out to different countries, and I will say this: just as you see people from the third world moving to first world countries, there are people from first world countries that are going to other first world countries. Like, for example, there are plenty of Americans and Europeans that are going to Japan. And so eventually, and Japan is a very homogenous country where, like, you know, almost everyone you see is Japanese, right? Same thing with South Korea. But eventually, as the world keeps being interconnected, you will, like, there will no longer be a sense of, like, ethnicity in the sense, you know, like the people who will basically be your neighbors will no longer look like you. The people who would be selling you stuff will no longer look like you. And that's normal when you're living in such an interconnected world. And if you don't want that, then you basically have to isolate yourself. But if you isolate yourself, you're pretty much doing you a disservice, because you're missing out in business, in commerce, in that stuff. Like you can limit immigration, but tourism will always be big. And guess what? Tourists also buy food. They also buy goods. And if in Rome, which is like a touristic attraction, it's a tourist a center because of like the Colosseum and the Vatican City, you would see a bunch of people from all over the world traveling to Rome just to see the Colosseum or the tower pizza or the pizza tower, or to go and see the Vatican City and see the Pope because of like the Christian religion. And so naturally, even if you are strong about immigration, like you don't really allow too many people in, you will have a bunch of tourists. And so there's really like not a single benefit for a country to not do tourism, because that just means less money, less tax revenue. And so like for example, if you live in Europe, and I think in Europe you have free healthcare, like in certain countries you have free healthcare, and even certain colleges is even free as well, and it's free as well. Well, you basically are paying a lot of taxes, but if you take away tourism, you're gonna be paying even more taxes just to be able to have what you need. And so it's pretty much one of those things where you have to concede. You may not like it, but at the end of the day, it's a net positive for your life, and eventually you'll get used to it. That's just how it is. A homogenous society, a homogenous country, when it comes to like say ethnic, like people who look like it's only a matter of time until people no longer look like you. And that's why you have to preserve culture, because even if people look different, even if people aren't of the same race, aren't of the same ethnicity, they can all share culture. They can all share a culture, really. Like in my home country, for example, South America, in Peru, we have a bunch of white people, black people, Asian people, and of course just brown people. They all look different. None of them are from like say the same ethnic background, but they all share a culture. They all enjoy the same music, they all enjoy the same foods, and they all unite together in the same centers of public parks and public centers. And that's because they all have a shared culture. So even if people that you like, your neighbors and the people who sell you stuff are no longer look like you, they all will still act like you if you preserve your culture. Really, it's kind of like how in Mexico you have white people, brown people, black people, Asian people enjoying Day of the Dead. They all enjoy the Mexican music, the mariachis, the tacos. They all enjoy the same foods. They all enjoy the same dances, same music, and they all join up in the same public centers, and they all coexist together. None of them look the same. None of them come from the same places, but they all share the same culture. So I think that's something that first world countries will need to adapt in the future, because the mass migration, even if you have it controlled, it will still happen. It will. It will still happen. It will somehow happen unless you become a country, unless you become North Korea per se, where basically you're gonna kill anyone that you don't like. And that could be a net negative even for like the local people, because even if you're a national, if you don't like the politics or they criticize the government, you may end up being on the shopping block as well. Like that's why everyone in North Korea wants to leave North Korea. So yeah, like I think first world countries need to adapt the system of where you need to basically preserve your culture, where people may look different, they may have different ethnicities, but they all behave the same, enjoy the same music, enjoy the same food. I think that's what needs to happen in the first world.
I am more Italian than any of these people. Look at this.
I don't see a single Italian here.
I don't see a single Italian here, guys. I am more Italian than any of these people.
Well, I don't know what's the average Italian look, but if he wasn't a real Italian, he'd probably be fat. I'm just saying it. The average Italian is fat because most Italian foods tend to be really like high in carbohydrates because of the spaghettis and the dough and the cheese. Like it's delicious food. Italian food is like one of the best in the world too. But if you eat Italian food every single day, you'll eventually just get fat. Unless you're hardcore at the gym.
Okay, dude.
Like if anything, based on the guy's hair, like being blonde and everything, I'd say he's probably from one of the Nordic countries, like either the, Britain or one of the like say like more up in the North European countries.
What the fuck are...
And I would say if you're like up in the North countries, like maybe not Britain, but like up in the northern countries, where they're like more isolated, it's way too cold. You won't see like say for example, you would see a bunch of immigrants there. Like you barely see immigrants going to Iceland or Greenland. No, because it's a cold place and they don't really want to be in the cold. Because most third world countries tend to be in warm areas. Why would they want to go to the cold? That's why it would be rare to see immigrants in like cold countries. Like Britain in itself is not that cold, but like I'm sure Iceland or Greenland are. No, Greenland is way colder, but Iceland it's still cold. But you know, and also like Iceland is like a small village. And so like no immigrant would want to go to small village because what are you gonna do in a small village? You can't really do business there. You can really work there. And so if he comes from a country that's basically receives not that many immigrants, then yeah, I can see why he would be ignorant of the fact that this is a touristic center. Of course, you're gonna have people of different ethnicities and races gathering up here. Also, let's not forget about the fact that the Vatican is not so far from Rome, and so there, and you know, the Vatican is basically like Catholicism, Christianity, and so Christianity, it's like a universal religion. It's big in Africa, it's big in Latin America, it's big in uh, Asia, it's big in like Europe, it's big in even like America. So you would see a bunch of people from those countries and regions migrating all the way to Italy, to Rome, just so that they can see the Vatican City and be able to hear and see what the Pope has to say. So it's like unless you live under a rock, logically there's no way you can come up with the answers that this guy, like the TikToker guy, is saying. Like yes, I hate to say this, but Idubbz is writing some of his criticisms. But let's see where Idubbz will basically mess up and do the things that where basically he ignores the bad stuff of immigration.
Are they? What the fuck are these people living in Italy? What does an Italian look like? You don't see an Italian? What are they gonna wear, a name tag? Yeah, my name's Riccardo, the Italian. Maybe instead of saying, I don't see any Italians here, you can fucking ask any of these people who are most certainly Italian, ask them if they're Italian.
But I will say this. The thing is that Idubbz is American, and so in America you had migration to America. Like that has been normalized ever since like say the Cold War. Even the Cold War, that's like around the 50s basically, right after World War II. And so migration in the United States, like seeing people of different ethnicities and races, like that's normal. But in countries like Japan, where like people are homogenous, like different, they're like the same ethnicity, same race basically, and like same thing in South Korea, same thing in China, and even Europe back then during the Cold War, it was a homogenous society. All of them were basically white or and of the same ethnicity, and that's because they didn't take a bunch of immigrants. The country that was taking a bunch of immigrants was the U.S. So obviously in the US, migration has been normalized, but in European countries that used to be homogenous, it's rare. So again, it's both sides have a point. Both sides have a point, and it's all based on subjectiveness. If you're looking at things from an American perspective, of course you're gonna see migration as a normal thing. But if you're looking at it from a say a homogenous perspective, you know, where like you barely see people, you've never seen migration happen ever in your life. Of course you're gonna point it out. Makes sense.
I might not look like Mario, but I'm Italian. I know, it's hard to believe.
I am more Italian than any of these people.
Oh wait, that guy is South African?
By the way, guys, his clothing brand is called Conquest. He's a white South African making travel vlogs that are vaguely xenophobic.
No, no, that's a bit too far. That's a bit too far. Xenophobic. I don't know. I don't know if it's true or not. But if your main complaint is like, oh, he's white and he's South African, he's traveling all over the world with a shirt that says Conquest. That's just BS. Don't make a huge deal about it. People wear offensive stuff and like violent stuff everywhere. Like oh my God, there are a bunch of young kids that literally wear things that have like gangster stuff, and like things that have like guns, and like that would be seen as violent. But like really, like don't if you're gonna complain, don't complain about the thing that says Conquest. Like who cares? Complain about the content, not about the person's skin color or the person's choice of clothing. Complain about the action, not about the person.
And his clothing brand is called Conquest. We gotta retire one of those things at least. I would recommend the xenophobic part, but you could also change the Conquest part as well.
Okay, so he's really turned off by the thing. Well, now that's making me consider buying one of those things myself. Conquest. Oh, I don't know what's it. Conquest bag. But I bet it's expensive. But really, it's just a piece of clothes. Don't complain too much about it, Ian. No wonder people dislike this video a lot. It's because you try to complain about things when you have like certain ballot points. Like you have certain ballot points, but you then also do bad stuff. And also like most of the dislikes here, it has to do with the fact that Ian, like his previous videos were straight up hypocritical. How dare you have empathy and not be empathetic?
You know, at least one.
Saying that the streets is dangerous. Perché?
Oh, I've seen this guy. This guy has made videos with the, what's it called? Oliveira. He's a great guy. He's always going after the pickpocketers. Yeah, he's correct. And really, the problem is not the people, the problem is the behavior. But whenever you don't see the government doing anything and they try to constantly obfuscate the fact that, oh, these are people from these regions, well, people are going to grow resentment. But here's the thing. If the government really wants to have minorities in their country, by not enforcing the law, you're doing the minorities a huge disservice. Like if you want immigrants in your country, if the politicians want immigrants in their country, by not enforcing the law and making sure that these immigrants obey the law and behave properly, be civilized, they're doing them a huge disservice, because really what they're doing is just further making the native people of like, you know, Europe, Italy, like Spain, whatever, to grow resentful of these immigrants. Really, like it's all because the government doesn't want to enforce the law, and by not enforcing the law, the people grow resentful. Because really, none of the people would be complaining about the immigrants if they knew that the government is keeping the immigrants in control and in check. That way, they are not going to be as aggressive and as fearful of the immigrants, and that way they could better socialize and get to know them better. It's all because you need control, you need authority. And obviously, Europe is heading for like a third world state, basically. And a common thing that is common in third world countries is that in third world countries, you become blackpilled. You lose faith in any politician, be the left wing, be the right wing. They all lie to you. They all never fulfill their promises. And so I'm sure the same might happen in Europe, in some countries, where you have a left wing president that says they're going to reform or they're going to change things. They don't do anything. And then you see a right wing president that says that they're going to deport or that they're going to enforce the law and everything, and nothing has happened. So people grow blackpilled, and you may see the rise of vigilante justice, or you may see basically people just accepting their fates and basically saying, well, the good old days are now gone. We just have to deal with it, basically. And so Europe becomes another third world country at that, even though they're first world because of their abundance in technology and so many rights and freedoms and like social policies. But now they don't have that. Now they don't have that.
Tutti quanti, i maceti. Maceti? Sì, loro. Look at all these guys. Look at all the shits on the floor. And here they are, just loitering. Very dangerous, he's saying. Se passo là io adesso, sono un centinaio, mi caricano, sicuro.
So this is the part of the video where they really up the levels of propaganda. They start you off softly implying by just showing you like this isn't like the postcards of Europe that you see. You guys have heard of Rome in your history class. You never saw pictures like.
But again, I do have to say, this guy's from South Africa. South Africa, if I remember, is a third world country too, right? Is classified as a developing country. Okay, so it's a third world country. It is. Wait, so obviously, wait. I'm just really okay. This guy, the TikTok guy that's complaining about this, he has to have lived in a gated community, because otherwise you would have seen this exact same behavior happening in South Africa, and I guarantee you, none of them would be immigrants. Because it's rare for third world immigrants to migrate to another third world country. It's very rare. Very rare. And usually it happens for political reasons. Like political persecution. Not really for like wanting to improve your life. But the guy must have lived in a gated community in order for him to say, oh, this is like Bangladesh. Because otherwise he'd be saying, guys, this is like South Africa, my home country. So that is something that needs to be pointed out. But the Italian guy, the guy with the glasses, he's 100% correct that yes, he has seen changes. I am more prone to believe a native of a country that's saying his problems than say like someone who's like basically like just a tourist, basically. And you know, tourists, in order to be a tourist, you need to have a certain amount of income. And so perhaps you probably live in a gated community, because yeah, like it's kind of like how you're like if you're a Karen in America, you're a Karen, you live in a gated community, you have this like luxury beliefs and everything. Well, if this Karen goes to say Peru, she's gonna be shocked. She's gonna say like, oh my god, this place is quite dangerous. So yeah, it's all about that. But if she goes to like say the rural areas of my home country, then she might think that, oh no, things are quite safe. So yeah, it's all about perspective.
You saw beautiful things like the Colosseum, but now you have to see immigrants.
But it is good that Idubbz did point out the fact that this guy is a tourist. He's a tourist. He's not even an Italian resident. He's a tourist. But the other guy, he is definitely an Italian. I've seen his collaboration with like Ryan Oliveira, or Tyler Oliveira, my bad. And the guy with glasses, that Italian guy, great guy. He's doing a huge favor to the people going after the pickpockets.
And then you get to this guy who's like, all right, now that I've primed you, I'm going to tell you how dangerous this street is that's adjacent.
But it's not propaganda. It's not. If it was propaganda, the government would literally be having its insignia somewhere around there.
adjacent to the farmer's market. Never mind the fact that none of you have any idea what this market is, what this street is. He's just gonna act like he's an authority on the matter and vaguely imply that it's an immigrant problem and not a poverty problem. By the way, when I was editing this, I found the rest of this clip. He ends up leaving the marketplace and they go to some random public area and harass some people who are just minding their own business.
I don't think that's harassment. It's not. It's not. These are people that are basically showcasing what happens whenever you make contact with crackheads. These are people that clearly are probably under the influence of some kind of drug. So obviously, if you care about your country and you want to make people sure, you want to let people know, hey, don't approach these kinds of people. They may do something to you.
Talking about how he's
Yeah, like straight up, he seems like he's having something.
from Europe and he's more Italian than these people. I think he mentions Africa at one point.
We're in Italy. We're in Europe. We are not in Africa. Get away from me. Okay. This is my country. Yeah, Europe. Are you from Europe? I'm from Europe.
Oh no, Europe is being. Oh.
Yeah, the guy is definitely a tourist, and he's definitely trying to act like he is from Europe. But again, we don't know. He may be from South Africa, may have been born there, but maybe he has family in Europe. Hard to say. But so far, he's a tourist who's a bit crazy.
Overrun! Someone save Europe! Now, these videos themselves are very bad, but when you go into the comment section, you realize how many people these bad ideas are attracting. Samantha says, import third world, get third world.
Yeah.
Well, these are not imports. These are human beings. But if you're referring to, there being a farmer's market, that's kind of a...
It's not really the farmer's market thing. That's just one thing. They're meaning about the behavior. Because really, before during the 90s, early 2000s, Europe was seen as like a very well put together society. Like European countries were seen like as a well put civilizations, like Spain, Italy, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, Ireland. They all were seen as like a well put together society, and that's because they've had proper enforcement of the law. So it would be normal to say, oh, that's first world behavior, and yeah, like, and you would see, oh, that's third world behavior whenever you went to third world country, and people behave like crazy. So it is true, but there's also the fact that if you import people from the third world, people will behave like as if they're in third world if you don't force them to behave otherwise. Because if you have an authority figure that literally forces them to no longer act like they're in third world country, they will simply act like a civilized normal person, because they know that if they behave like as if they behaved in their own home country, they would go to jail or get tons of massive fines. It's all about control.
A first world thing. That's just called a regular market everywhere else. So yeah, you're wrong and you're also stupid. This is what the liberals want in America. Yeah.
Liberals want this, but they never get to experience the negative consequences, the cons. They don't experience it. I guarantee you, a bunch of the liberals that support mass migration, they probably don't work at a job where they're easily replaceable, because most immigrants that come, they go and work at low income jobs, because like the adult ones, they don't have a degree that they can use, and the children, well, they're still going to school. Like the childrens might be professionals, but the adults, they're mainly working like low income jobs, like at some like delivery drivers, McDonald's, Starbucks, retail, supermarkets, low income stuff. But like if this person is probably like works at a tech company, like, well, not this person, but liberals, like, that support this, they work at a tech company where their job is secure, they know they're never gonna be replaced, well, then they can basically support any kind of mass migration, even though when you allow mass migration, there's competition, really. And again, here's the one thing that I barely see anyone talking about is that whenever you allow mass migration constantly every single year, well, the immigrants that came, like, say, 10 years ago, they're now going to be competing with the immigrants that come in 2025. So the ones that came during the early 2000s, they're competing with the ones that came during 2025. So there's competition everywhere, and it becomes chaotic.
And they're getting it. They're getting their farmers markets, and they're loving their farmers markets. Thank you for making this content and hopefully waking up the European people. Oh yeah, this is something that you're going to see a lot, is people just sort of, when it benefits them, they will invoke the continent of Europe, and when it doesn't benefit them, they'll be very specific and say, oh, it's this is a real problem in the UK. This is a real problem in Rome. Europe is finished. Rome has fallen again. Oh man, yeah, farmers markets will be the end of Rome.
It seems like Ian really loves farmers market, and he's taking it out, but he's ignoring the fact that, like, you saw those people here in here, like the way they were behaving, they seem so sketchy. They seem like they're like crackheads. They seem like they're crackheads, and you don't want crackheads anywhere. Ideally, you want none of them to be out there in public.
This is what America would be if Trump didn't put a stop to it. Yeah, and this is what America would be if Trump didn't put a stop to it.
U.S. citizen detained. This is just a 1%, 2% error. Any system will have errors. Like, there are a bunch of people that are innocent that are pretty much on prison, even though they never committed the crime. There are a bunch of people who are, like, basically, like, you know, whenever taxes go up, they may no longer afford things anymore. Or not really taxes, whenever they, like, say, like the DMV is a great example. Its main flaw is the fact that it takes too long, and it takes too long to get what you want. Any system is bound to have errors, and this could be an error.
Yeah. And
American veteran detained for 3 days. Again, this could probably be an error. And the quality is so bad. MSNBC, what happened to the quality? Again, another one. And even then, we don't know the context. Like the other two, I can believe the girl. I can believe the guy who's a veteran. But this guy, he's like some random nobody. Who knows him? Maybe he was stopped for something else.
How's that working out? Import third world, become third world. I don't like. I just came back from Rome, and yes, it was bad.
Yeah, really. I guarantee you, any person in the third world that goes to Rome, goes to Paris, they'll tell you, yeah, it's bad. It's almost as if I'm still back in my home country.
Scammers and graffiti everywhere. I'm not even Italian, and it makes me sad. Well, don't let your racism affect you too much. For all you know, the Italians are loving it.
Is that so? I don't really think so. And also, I think Italy, you know, they can really be open about their true feelings about the issue, because they are fearful of being canceled. They're fearful of being of like the government investigating them, and labeling them as like threats to society. So that you won't really see people complain about it because they can't. It's kind of like asking a Chinese person if they agree with the Chinese government, or a Russian person if they agree with the Russian government. Well, they can't really say that in public, because if they do, they might get put in jail or lose their lives. So it's hard to trust what, support from the people. That's why I trust the guy who's Italian with glasses. Like, how dare you, Ian, like an American, say how people from Italy feel? Let people from Italy talk their own opinions, even if you don't like them. their opinion. Even if you disagree with their opinion, let them talk. They have a right to speak on the matters that happen in their home country. Like, for example, even though I'm a naturalized American in the US, I don't really try to say as if I know things in America, because really I only know things that happen in California, and I know things that happen in certain states that I've been to. And also because I'm a resident, I'm 8 years here. But the more and longer I live in America, the more I will know America, and the more uh, authoritative or like a say in the matters I can have. But when I'm like, I still don't have a lot of experience and a lot of years. It's not really my place to say. Like, for example, whatever happens in Texas, as a Californian, it's not really my place to say. Same thing in Florida, same thing in New York City. But I can point out based on my experiences. So yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're generalizing people. People are not going to all behave or agree on the same stuff. You think all Italians want mass migration? I don't think so. I don't. That's why you have terms liberals and conservatives. You know, liberals will love mass migration, but conservatives will not.
This looks like Toronto as well. Unfortunately, same in the UK, even worse.
Yeah.
RIP Europe and UK. They're ruining Canada and the UK right now. Oh my god, we finally found a sensible comment. Every city, state, country has its international sections, i.e. Chinatown, Japantown, Little Armenia, etc. There's nothing wrong with diversity. You happen to be in an international flea market. This is Rome is a false statement. It's just a block, not the state of the city. Okay, shout out Jack, the man, you just fucking the city.
This is actually quite normal. Like, yeah, that's basically having diasporas. Like Chinatown, Japantown, or Little Armenia. Those are diasporas. Like, if you go to Chinatown, you're bound to see a bunch of people who are like Chinese ancestry. Same thing in Japantown, Japanese ancestry. Little Armenia, Armenian ancestry. It's a diaspora. That's common whenever there's migration. But again, yeah, like, but here's the thing. The international flea market, the tourist guy from South Africa, there's no way he would have known that. There's no way, unless he researched beforehand. So if he didn't research, if he was an ignorant, then yeah, it would seem like this is Rome. But the Italian guy, I am more prone to believe him. Like, even though the Italian guy knows that this is an international flea market, well, the reason I can understand the Italian guy is because, well, yeah, it's an international flea market, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that people are still behaving violently and not being civilized. They're not being clean. So yeah, like, even if it's an international place, the main complaint is the behavior. It's not the people. It's the behavior. So again, like, here's like Ian trying to lie to people. He's trying to mislead people into thinking that, oh, this is like a inherently xenophobic racist problem, when in reality it's pretty much a complaint about the behavior. Like, the Italian guy, he's like, based on the Tyler Oliveira videos, he's very much against people pickpocketing. And in the Tyler Oliveira videos, we saw the Italian guy, like, even being friendly with Asian tourists who were pickpocketed. So it's not a xenophobic or racist thing. It's just basically that they're tired of antisocial behavior, like tired of people committing crimes like pickpocketing, uncleanliness. Like, they're just tired of that. And again, you wouldn't see people trying to be like do vigilante justice if the own government and the own authorities were doing their proper job.
Okay, shout out Jack, the man, you just brought the heat. They turn every place they go into the place that they left. I think some people have a selfish mindset in thinking that because they themselves wouldn't leave the country that they were born in or have become accustomed to, that other people wouldn't do that, and if they are doing that, they're doing it for like sinister reasons. It's just like a basic human thought to be like, I want to bring some of my culture into the place that I'm traveling to, that I'm now going to start my new life in.
And here's the thing: people wouldn't have an issue with your culture if you just kept it at your house. Keep it within your house, and of course, like if it involves music and loud noises, do it during the daylight hours, or even if it's during, do it during the daylight hours, or don't do it at night. Don't do it at night because people are sleeping. And even if it, and here's the thing, even if it's during the daylight hours, know where you're going to live at. If it's a quiet neighborhood, you probably don't even want to make loud noises because people will complain. You will have the cops calling you and they will tell you, hey, lower your noises. So yeah, like you try to be respectful. Like, oh, nobody cares like if you cook practice your culture, you cook stuff from your home country in your home, in your own home or place where you're living. But if say you're like going around out there in the public and practicing your culture just like that, people may have a problem, especially if you're doing it in a way that's like disruptive. Like people wouldn't mind like say, oh, you're going to like you're at a public park and there's like a place where everyone gathers around and then you're going to share your culture there, like by like doing some little show or dance or something. That's fine. But if you're doing that like say in the middle of the street, or you're doing that in the middle of the street, or even if it's not in the middle of the street, you're doing that like in the middle of some alleyway or something like that, then yeah, people will find a problem. Even if you want to take away, even if you want to bring your culture, you have to remember you're in a different country that has its own culture, its own society, and if they don't want you to bother them, don't do it. If you want to practice your own culture, then simply just go back to your own home country and stay there. Or go to some other country that will be more accepting of that. Like, oh, it's as simple. That's one. Like, you have Japanese people. You don't see them practicing their culture like out there in a way that's disturbing of others in like in America or in like different countries. They're not bothering people. And again, the best way to practice your culture in a different country is by opening a restaurant or opening a place where you teach people how to dance the way the people dance in your home country. It's a business, and because it's a business, and it's an opt-in event, there will be no bothers. The people who want to eat your country's food or want to practice your country's culture, they'll go to that like place where you are going to do it.
Of course, it's going to be these places that are desirable to go to and that are very multicultural. There's a reason why people are referencing Canada and the UK. It's because people who are immigrating to these countries like these countries. They like that their culture is either already kind of established there, and there are foods and routines and places to go and people to meet that are going to allow them to integrate better into the society. Okay, we got another.
I don't know if I agree with what Ian says. Like, yes, there is an established culture, but I guarantee you, the primary reason people from the third world migrate to first world countries is simple. They want security, they want their hard work to be able to allow them to progress in society, and they want to earn a decent living. That's why the primary reason. Because I guarantee you, if third world countries, if all of them all improved their situations and all of them became first world, suddenly you will see a bunch of people going back to their own home countries by will of their own. They will. It's that simple. Because there are plenty of people that, like, say, in my home country, for example, if Peru was a better place, if Peru was more secure, more safe, and the government actually cared about the people, then plenty of Peruvians that are like out there in different parts of the world, they'll go back to Peru on their own. And the ones who stay, they'll probably stay because they like the culture and the society where they live in, because there are plenty of Peruvians that love Spanish culture. They love the Spanish foods. They also love, or they love, like, say, like in the case of like France, they love French culture, French foods, and so they will stay there. And they'll stay in there because they love the culture and the foods that the European country or first world country has to offer for them. they're not staying because they want to keep practicing their culture. No, they're staying there because they want to be part of the culture of that European or first world country. It's that simple. And because they probably have like families as well. Like they've married some like, you're in Spain, you married a Spanish woman or a Spanish man, or someone, a man or woman from the first world, you married them, and so you have families there. So you will stay there. It's better. It's better. But you can always go back, travel back and forth to so that your children can know, or your boyfriend girlfriend can know your home country, how it has improved and how it used to be, or something like that. But really, I would say like it's not really because there's a culture there. No, no, no. I guarantee you, back in the past in America, there was no established culture from, like, say, any third world country. There was no established culture, like, unless you mean Mexican culture, because of like the historical events. Back then it was all American culture. It was all American culture. And like the only other thing would have been Chinese culture. But the Chinese people were expelled back then as well. But then when they were allowed to return, they returned. But really, other countries like Latin Americans, not Mexican countries, there was no established culture in the U.S. So the main reason they went to the U.S. was really money and security. It's because it's a desirable country to live in. First world countries are desirable because of the opportunities that they offer, and because of the security of it. That's why. It's not really so much because they want to bring their culture. Now, bringing their culture usually happens when, like, people coming like droves. Like if one person, like, say, if one person from Japan goes to, say, like Texas, and they don't see a Japanese diaspora or like a little Tokyo there, well, the Japanese person is going to assimilate into Texan culture, Texan society, not into Japanese culture, Japanese society. So like diasporas really happen when there's like mass migration, because people will stick together and create and preserve their own culture and community there. But if they all coming separately, the people would just simply assimilate into the country as a whole. Like it's kind of like how it happened. Like, I'm Peruvian, but I barely practice my Peruvian culture, and that's because really, one, there aren't that many Peruvians where I live, and two, I've always been around around American, anything American in school and everything, so naturally I'd become Americanized.
Comment, it says, the world is getting pretty racist, and this person responds with, you can't go into a new country and overtake it like this. You assimilate into their culture. They're also ruining property.
With the graffiti.
In no way is it racist.
This guy with 476 likes, it's true. You can't go into a new country and simply try to force your culture and way of living into their country. You have to assimilate. Simple. And even if you don't want to assimilate, you simply keep your culture, keep your way of living in your little home, in your personal space, where nobody will be bothered. It's that simple. And again, it is true. They're ruining property. They are doing graffitis. It's not a racist thing. It's a pattern. And so the authorities, they should be more controlled. They should have more control and control these immigrants into behaving properly.
It's a pattern. After watching that video, a little while later, I started getting more content that was adjacent to that. This time in the form of robin bagpipes.
I am proud of European culture. I will not show embarrassment around European culture, and I will continue to spread European culture.
You might be taking a lot of credit here by saying that you're spreading European culture.
That's
You'll
Scottish.
That a lot of people going into the UK and a lot of...
That is Scottish. That's a Scottish thing. I know the bagpipe. That's a Scottish thing. The Scottish are known for their bagpipes and their long skirt that men wear. I know that, but it's not really a European thing. I don't see Spanish people doing that. I don't see Italians doing that. I don't see French doing that.
Mexicans going into the US, they're not doing this shit. They're literally just living their lives. And I think a lot of people.
I wouldn't say that. There are a bunch of Mexican people that are crazy. There are. Like, again, not everyone has to be a monolith. No one, like, not all white people behave the same. Not all brown people behave the same. Like, come on, Ian. Come on, Ian. You have to acknowledge there are good people and bad people, even within minorities. Come on. Even non-white people are capable of doing bad things by virtue of being human. Humans can be cruel. But yeah, like, I personally, I don't have a problem with this Scottish guy basically doing the bagpipe. Now, is it a nuisance? Yeah, but that's up for the local people to decide, really. Like, it's kind of like how, like, oh, you're gonna see someone, like, driving their car and they're, like, blasting music out loud and the entire neighborhood can hear. Well, if the neighborhoods have a problem with that, then they just simply call the cops. It's up for the people in the local area to decide if it's annoying or not.
People like Robin bagpipes perhaps see, I don't know, Muslim people wearing hijabs or Indian culture being expressed or any of these like foreign cultures and religious traditions, and they think to themselves, oh, this is performative. This would be like me dressing up in my full Scottish regalia and marching down the streets playing my bagpipe in India.
What?
It's like, that's not what it is at all. The immigrants going to your country of Scotland or wherever else.
It's performative. I mean, it is performative in a way. It is. Like, well, with the Muslims, that's pretty much part of their religion. It's kind of like how most Christians, they probably tend to they probably have a Bible at their homes, but usually whenever they're going out, they probably have like a necklace with a cross. They probably would have that, like some kind of jewelry within them that has like some religious Christian symbolism. It's the same like with the Jewish people. They have like the little hat thingy. So it's a performative thing that basically indicates, yes, I am part of this religion. Like if I see a person wearing a collar or a necklace and at the end it has like a cross hanging in there, I'm immediately like, oh, that's probably Christian or Catholic. Yeah. And again, like the Scottish regalia, that's like a traditional outfit, kind of like how you have like traditional outfits that are used for dances. And again, there are people who wear those traditional outfits, and to them, that's their day-to-day life outfits. Like in my home country, you have the in my home country, there are people who genuinely dress like this day to day because that's where they live, and also because the weather conditions don't really allow them to wear any other types of clothes. But other people wear this kinds of stuff, which is basically part of like a traditional dance, for example. Same thing with this traditional dance. Not really because they dress like this on their day-to-day lives, but because it's part of a traditional dance and they all wear that. So really, some people, like, there are two types of traditional clothes. The clothes that people use in their day-to-day lives, like this one, or the clothes that people use for, like, rituals, like this one. Like, yeah. And I would not be surprised if in Scotland I find people that literally wear the Scottish regalia on their day-to-day lives. I would not be surprised. So it's a performative thing. It is.
They're literally just trying to live. And you interpreting their culture as like this exuberant display or them bringing the third world to your country is just ignorant. He said,
and I don't think it's ignorant for, like, you know, if I see someone Scottish and they are traveling all over the world with the Scottish regalia, like, that's normal. Like, even when I go, like, when I go back to my home country and, like, say I travel cars, I go walking around the city, I see people, I see like, you know, the people who wear the traditional Peruvian clothes. And even though they could wear like casual clothes, they still choose to wear that. And that's because they probably like it. So it would be the same with this guy. He probably like just likes going around. Now you could say that the noise from the backpacks could be annoying, um, but that's about it. Other than that, that's about it. Yeah, like if a Muslim person, like if they were religious, they would wear the hijab. But if they were not religious, they wouldn't wear the hijab. It's the same thing with like Indian people and like Jewish people and like Christians. If they were religious, they'd be wearing something that's symbolic of their religion. But if they weren't very religious, they would simply just not wear them. So yeah, like I don't think it's ignorant. In a sense, it's true. It's performative in a sense because it's a way that shows it's a symbol.
Them bringing the third world to your country is just ignorant.
And again, he's obviously putting words mouth into the guy, into this Scottish guy. He's putting words into his mouth. The Scottish guy is not saying that, oh, I'm bringing the first world. No, he's not. He's just basically dressed like a Scottish person and doing the backpacks and just simply traveling all around.
He says,
And let me tell you what, I bet the Indian people in India, I bet they were fine. I bet they were happy with him. I bet they had no problem. And I'm sure there were also some Indians that had a problem with that. People aren't a monolith.
I brought cultural enrichment back to European markets. I love this British market. He is
Yeah, like this is like if it's in wait, London. Where in London is this? Not this British market. Well, yeah, I mean Scotland is British. Yeah, makes sense. Surrounded by doctors and engineers. That's the thing that people do have a problem with, and that is that um, the government paints this mass migration from say India that they're all doctors and engineers. Well, if they were all doctors and engineers, they wouldn't really be at the food market selling stuff. Maybe buying, but you would know who's a doctor and an engineer based on the way they dress.
he is performing for these Indian people. It's very interesting to them. And instead of
I mean, yeah, it's interesting to them. Of course, it would be known to them. They're in Britain. Of course, they would be interested in the local culture. It's like whenever I'm here in America, I'm interested whenever like I see like rodeos and stuff like that. I'm interested in that because that's something that's unique to America. Same thing whenever I went to Mexico, I am interested whenever Mexicans are doing like their cultural dances and like music displays, dance displays. I'm interested in that because it's the local culture. It's nice to know things.
owning the fact that this is a great way to spread your culture and also get views online. He's deciding to bring this sort of disgusting xenophobic element.
Oh my god. Stop it, Ian. Stop it, Ian. Just because you go to a place in your home country and you're practicing your culture in a place where, say, people that aren't native of your country are, it's not xenophobic. It's not. Do you think is it xenophobic when in Mexico there are a bunch of, like, say, American tourists, like, all gathered around, and then out of nowhere a group of Marashis start singing Mexican songs? Is that xenophobic? I don't think so. So stop it with the like out of touch takes, Ian. It's not xenophobic. Really, it's not.
To all of his content.
If you hate your own country so much that you want this to replace it, that there's something seriously wrong with you. follow me around the world and you want to spread European culture.
Because I think it's like it caught my
What?
xenophobic element to all of his content.
If you hate your own country so much that you want this to replace it, that there's something
If you hate your own country so much that you want this to replace it.
seriously wrong with
Oh, this is probably like to like any non-Indian nation. Now, honestly, I think he's kind of right. I don't think any person from any country wants their country to be replaced by any foreign country. I bet you plenty of Mexicans wouldn't want American culture to replace Mexican culture. I bet you a bunch of Japanese people wouldn't want, like, say, I don't know, European or like, let's be specific, they wouldn't want Italian culture to replace their culture. No country wants their culture replaced. That's normal. That's a normal thing.
you. Follow me around the world if you want to spread European culture.
And by this, oh, this is literally just an Indian marketplace. Exactly, it is. Indian marketplaces are something that you should only find in India. And probably in select spaces in certain countries. Again, that's normal within diasporas. But again, the main issue is not the people, but the behavior. And again, who do you blame? It's the government for not having control on the matter.
Because I think it's like it caught my attention, and I'm sure it caught a lot of people's attention because of the contrast. You
What?
don't often see the little ginger kid in India playing his bagpipes.
I mean, yeah. Like, I think even seeing ginger people in general is quite rare. Especially in, like, third world countries. Very rare. You usually see blonde people or black hair people or brunettes. Like, ginger in itself is quite rare as a hair color. So yeah, it's quite rare.
My baby don't mess around.
They hate it, and I absolutely love it.
Wait, what?
Don't mess around.
They hate it. Playing his
What's-
bagpipes.
What is this? Is this really some, is this an actual tribe's outfit? I don't know. If it's true, then I guess it's fine. But if it's like just some god, then yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
My baby don't mess around.
But again, like North American culture, that's usually like tribe stuff. Yeah, that's indigenous stuff. That's usually indigenous stuff. But again, North American culture, like North America has a unique thing. Pop is a North American thing. Rock is a North American thing. Well, is it with rock? Not really, but rock and roll is a North American thing. Popping itself, rap is a North American thing. Jazz is a North American thing. There are plenty of things that are North American. And again, they're pretty much just American in itself. Because if you want to speak North America, you're talking about Mexico, the U.S. and Canada, and all of those three have their own different cultures.
They hate it, and I absolutely love it.
I don't know what this is.
Well, you don't know what they hate. It seems like they're very.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they hate it. I think they're just curious. That's natural. Like, obviously, a group of Indians that are like in, say, the UK would be interested in, say, British culture. They would be, or not really British, in Scottish culture. They would be English culture. Like, they would be interested in it. I mean, of course, duh.
very much interested in it. I mean, if you love it so much,
And if they hate it, they probably would have reacted violently and tried to make the person to stop. But they don't do it because they know it's disrespectful.
then you might want to take up bagpiping culture because obviously it's being, overrun by immigrants. He's fighting for his culture. No. You think this guy's wearing this shit every day? He's putting on a show for you. That's what he's doing. He's not fighting for shit. His culture is probably wearing some blue jeans and eating a cheeky Nando's.
I mean, it's hard to tell, really. Anything in social media can be fake. Like, who knows? Ian is probably also being performative here. he probably also like doesn't practice what he preaches.
That's probably his culture. And you know, I don't blame him for it, right? That's closer to my culture. I brought cultural enrichment back to European markets. And you have people genuinely confused saying, is this really somewhere in Europe? They don't know. So it's a double whammy. You can say that this is what Europe looks like, but then simultaneously, you're not in fucking Europe. So you're fear mongering, but you're actually also just lying to people. But you can say, oh, I'm not lying, I'm just being satirical. But is it really that satirical? It's not. What are you satirizing? The fact that immigrants existed.
But you know what's the one thing? Like, we're already 12 minutes into the Ian's video, and all he has done is shown us 2 videos that probably may give him a bit of credibility. But then what about the dozens and dozens of videos that show much worse? I bet Ian doesn't bring those up because he knows they will destroy his worldview and his messaging. That, oh, all immigrants are good. No, they're not. Immigrants are humans, and they're capable of doing cruel things too. And they're capable of doing crimes too. So, that's why you need authorities. That's why you need the police to be everywhere, so that people can be held accountable for their actions. And again, and this is Europe. Again, Ian is not bringing this up. He's not bringing up the double standards that the European authorities and politicians, like in Britain, for example, the police actually arrests British people immediately whenever they commit a crime. But whenever an immigrant in Britain, in the UK, whenever an immigrant commits a crime, the police never do anything. So obviously you will see people in Britain that get angry. And they get upset because there's a clear double standards. It's kind of like how back then, like say, whenever a crime was done to white people during like Jim Crow laws, whenever a crime was done to white people, the criminal would immediately be caught. But whenever a crime was done to, say, a non-white person, it would take a lots of periods of times to catch the criminal, because there was a clear preferential treatment. So it's kind of like the same what's going on in Europe, and Ian is not bringing it up, because if he does, it's going to destroy his message. All he does is just showing us these 2 videos and random comments. Like, really?
In your country? Or is it the fact that too many immigrants exist in your country? Or is it the fact that a specific type of immigrant exists in your country? Because you need to be a lot less generally racist to be able to pull off satire. White race, heart, heart, heart emoji. Do this more, please. Show the world what white culture is.
Damn, I'm on my Britney shit. Oops, I hit again.
He's also doing this.
Of course, again, like, Ian is being selective with what he's showing, obviously. And again, I have no problem with people being proud of being white, because again, it would be hypocritical if you don't have a problem with people expressing being pride or being proud of, say, being black, being brown, Asian. Well, then that should also apply to white people. Otherwise, it would be hypocritical, and there would be a double standards. So yeah, I don't have a problem with people expressing pride in being white or in white culture. I have no problem. But clearly, Ian certainly does have one. He definitely seems to have some problem with, like, white culture or people expressing pride in being white. And I guess the reason as to why is because Ian has been groomed into hating his own people. And again, he has probably been fearmonger to the point into thinking that anything slightly positive towards white people is basically something bad. And so he's scared. And I don't blame him. American culture and society has for lots of times actually treated white people as if they were like, you know, they're constantly at the worst end of the deal. Like they're constantly the perpetual villains. And I have to say, it's not their problem. Why should they suffer the consequences of their ancestors? Really? It's kind of like why the Japanese should suffer the consequences of their Japanese ancestors. Same thing for the Chinese. Why should they suffer the consequences of their ancestors? Or Russians? Really? So obviously, the people of today are not guilty for the sins and crimes that their ancestors have done. People are their own individual being.
AI content where it says Indian jumps into dirty water.
What?
Some of the Indian stereotypes really are true.
It is AI, guys. Chill.
AI?
And then you read the description and it says, I love Indians, some of the friendliest, funniest, warmest people I met on my travels. Then you go to the comments and he likes the comment saying it's not AI. It is so cowardly, right?
Wait, so, okay. So he says it is AI, and then he likes a comment that says it's not AI. Well, not that. I have to say it is, but no, that's a retarded move. It is. Like, what? If it's AI, that's fine. If it's not AI, that's fine. There's no need to, you're just confusing people. That's really it. But other than that, like, yeah, who cares? And again, dirty water. I guarantee you, the reason those Indians jump into dirty water is because the only water that's available to them is dirty. They don't have clean water. If they had clean water, they'd be jumping in it. They would be. And again, that's a government problem.
Because it is one, not acknowledging that there is already so much racism towards Indians on the internet. And
I don't know. If you mean dark jokes, dark humor, and like memes, yeah, I would say that. But again, anyone gets made fun of. I've seen a bunch of black people get made fun of. But I guess if you mean like specifically the country, then I've seen people like in Nigeria get made fun of. People like in certain African countries. Same thing with like Middle East, Asia, even Europe. Everyone is participating in this common laughing together. So like you're just mad that people are having fun, Ian. Do you have something against fun, Ian?
and in the country that you're coming from. It is perpetuating so many negative, awful stereotypes. And then you're using AI to fabricate something that didn't fucking happen, but many people will interpret as real.
Even if it didn't happen, it's quite possible that it would happen. Especially amongst kids. I've seen TikToks where Indian users, Indians themselves, actually jump into the water. So stereotypes exist for a reason, and everyone suffers from it. No one's safe from stereotypes. No one is. Like even white people are stereotyped as well.
And then you go to his page and you realize all of his videos are basically about tearing down and shitting on Indian culture.
Is it just India? Obviously he's rage baiting.
And not really even propping up Scottish culture. It's more about saying that Scottish culture is European culture. Very bizarre.
I am proud of European culture. I will not show embarrassment for European culture.
We've heard from a South African and we've heard from a Scottish. Now we're going to hear from a Canadian. I'm talking Mr. Nelk.
This might be very controversial. Actually, I can't say it. This is the way I'll say it. Tim Hortons, if I walk into a shawarma restaurant, I don't want to see a white person serving me. Does that make sense? Yeah, 100%. If I walk into a shawarma restaurant and I see a white person serving me, I don't want it. So you can figure out
What?
the other side. If I see a white person in there, I'm fucking out. And Tim Hortons, you can figure out the other side.
Listen, Mr. Jelk, it is still racist when you're using white people as the example for you to make the racist statement. I want white people to be cooking their white people food and brown people to be cooking their brown people food.
Bro, do you know? Yeah, obviously the guy is probably joking. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing with the internet. Some people are clearly joking, and then Ian is easily falling for the race baiting. Easily. I guarantee you, these people probably don't even... Like, I guarantee you, this guy probably doesn't even give a fuck about who serves him, as long as the food's great. Because really, like, if I go to, say, a Mexican mariachi restaurant where they have mariachis, guess who served me? A beautiful white lady. There are white people, there are white workers, there's also Asian workers and black workers. And that's because you cannot, you have civil rights, and you cannot prevent someone's ability to work, the right to work. And if the jobs available are, like, say, in a non-white restaurant, people would just work at the non-white restaurant, even if they are white themselves. And that's because they have a right to work, and they will work regardless of what kind of food is being served. They'll work regardless. And obviously, this is race baiting, and you shouldn't take anything seriously. That's why I barely, whenever I see something I don't like on the internet, I just scroll down, because it's a waste of time to just reply negatively. Now, I have done that in the past, and I think I do it from time to time, but I try to not do it as often. Because in the end of the day, it's not good for your well-being to constantly mauled over internet stuff.
Don't want it, so you can figure out the other side. If I see a white person in there, I'm fucking out. And
When you're using white people as the example for you to make the racist statement, I want white people to be cooking their white people food and brown people to be cooking their brown people food. That's weird. We don't like that, all right? By the way, it's Tim Hortons.
And again, what's that have to do with the mass migration? Really? Like, even because, like, even if there's no mass migration, I bet you there are plenty of Canadian people that have, say, gone to Asia or Latin America or, like, Africa or Middle East, and they've met a native there, and they've fallen in love, and they decided to bring them back home. And obviously their children will be mixed race, but their children will be Canadians, because, one of the parents is Canadian. And so really, it doesn't really have to do with immigration itself. Like, mass migration, not so much. But immigration, I guess in this case it will be selective. Because not all Canadians are all going outside of Canada and going to places where people of different races are, so that they can fall in love with them. Like, it's not, like, not everyone is doing it. It's generalizing, of course.
Hortons.
But I still don't see, like, what does the thing that this guy is saying have to do with immigration in itself? Because people can still be from Canada, like Canadian nationals. They were born in Canada because one of the parents is Canadian, yet they are not white. Like, for example, I bet you, like, Canada has a black population as well. And that's probably because of, like, back then Canada offered sanctuary to slaves that escaped to Canada, basically. And so there would be black people who would then be granted citizenship, and then their children would be citizens eventually. It's a historical thing, even though the immigration happened in the past. But obviously, even though right now Canada has a migration problem too, it's not as bad as in, like, Europe, I would say. I haven't seen a lot of videos of Canada, but one thing that is certain is that in Canada, they have, like, their economy is so bad that apparently for an average person to live a decent life, they need, like, one job and 2 part-time jobs. That's bad. That's bad for an average person should be able to work one job, and that should be able to sustain them. But again, here's the thing, like, Ian, like, he knows there aren't that many videos that might improve his credibility. That's why he's even, like, trying to use even, like, this other video so that he can go for, like, mildly support his worldview and message. Even though, like, again, we've seen 3 videos. It's like 3 videos, really.
Tim Hortons,
What the hell is that?
if I walk into a shawarma restaurant and I see a white person serving me, I don't want it. So you can figure out the other side.
This is the type of rhetoric you hear from conservative dads and grandfathers. Let's put it this way. Do I want a white guy making my Kung Pao chicken? No. Hell no, right? That's me saying fuck you to the white guy.
What?
You know? Hell no, right? That's me saying fuck you to the white guy. You know, it's not about race. You know, I don't want white people cooking, I don't know, tamales. You think if I go to Japan, they're just gonna welcome me into the #1 sushi restaurant in the world? Probably not.
Like, that's even ridiculous. What the fuck? What the heck is even? What are you even saying, Ian? If you go anywhere over the world, you will be accepted in the #1 restaurant in the world if you have the money. They're expensive. They will not accept anyone who's poor. But if they see you have money, they'll accept you. They don't care where you come from because all they love is money. Oh, you're white, who cares? You're black, who cares? You're Asian, you're brown, who cares? You have money, you're welcome here. We will give you the best treatment you can ever get. And that's because you have money. And again, even if Ian is right and like, oh, some conservatives do that, I assume, and not even I assume, I'm sure they're a minority within the conservatives as a whole.
Probably not. And would you say that they're racist because of that? Probably not. Probably not.
It's like if you walk into an Italian restaurant, you want Italian serving you.
I am more Italian than
An Italian serving you. How could you tell apart from an Italian guy and like a French guy or like a Spanish guy or a British guy, English, Scottish, Welsh, Irish, Northern Irish? How could you tell the difference? Like, unless you look at the hairstyle, the hair color, and things that are like common. But other than that, most of them have like almost the same features. It's kind of like, oh, you want like a brown person, like you want a Mexican cooking your food. How do you know that person is not from El Salvador or Peru or Chile, Argentina, Brazil? It's hard to know, really.
any of these people.
Dude, back in the day, when I used to go to Tim Hortons every fucking day, I would get a bagel and cream cheese with everything, and they'd put the cream cheese on both sides.
Okay.
Now what they do is they take the scooper, and they fucking put it on one side, and they fucking clap it like this. It's bullshit.
You're describing
That's just normal restaurant changing. Normal restaurants change. Like, I remember when I went to well, not me, but my grandma remembers going to McDonald's, and the Big Mac used to be $1. And that was like in the early 2000s. In the early 2000s, Big Mac was $1. And then when I came to the US, the Big Mac was like about $5. And that was the meal. $5 meal. And then during the pandemic, it went to $6 to $7. And nowadays, the meal is like around $10 to $11. A medium meal, not even a large one. And of course, the quality obviously changes. The way people do it is just because people get lazy over time.
this generally low-skilled job as like some high cuisine. If someone fucks up half of your Tim Hortons order, it's still Tim Hortons.
What does chat think, Mike?
Yeah, it's still the same thing. And if your order gets messed up, just complain to them and have them do it again. Really. And if they complain about it, well, too bad. They shouldn't have messed up your order.
Canadians, back me up.
Unfortunately for everyone who backed him up in chat, you are, I regret to inform you, racist.
Why did you censor the chat? I guarantee you, I bet there were some people in his chat that probably called him out. Are you just censoring it because you know it's against your narrative?
It's done. It's gone downhill. And I want to rep Canada and I want to rep Tim Hortons, but like I don't really rep Tim Hortons like that no more.
We do not care, Dr. Joke. You can take that repackaged boomer racism somewhere else because we're...
I guess in this case, yeah, like obviously the guy's a retard for saying that, like, oh, you want someone that looks like you to serve you your food. Like, again, unless you lived in a super homogenous country, and I would say this again, like Canada used to be homogenous, like everyone was Canadian, everyone was white back then. And that's because Canada didn't accept immigrants in droves and they barely accepted anyone. That's why everyone was coming to America, because America was the country that accepted everyone. But then Canada decided to open its borders, and out of nowhere you have a culture shock. So I don't even blame the guy for wanting white people to serve him Team Hortons or Team Jordans, whatever it's called. I don't even blame him, because I bet he probably lived in a time where everyone he knew, everyone around was a white person. So I don't blame him. It's a culture shock. It's kind of like whenever someone's experiencing culture shock, it's normal for that kind of stuff. But even then, even though like, it's stupid to think and to want that.
We're not buying. This guy's my fucking age. Bagpipes seems a little bit younger, which is even a little bit more troubling. And then the conquest.
You're worried that the young guys are into this? Oh my god, my mom's calling me. All right, I just had to take care of some things. What was I saying?
Somewhere else, because we're not buying. This guy's my fucking age. Bagpipes seems a little bit younger, which is even a little bit more troubling.
Oh yeah. Ian is worried the young guys are becoming radicalized, and I'm sure he's gonna say, "Oh, it's probably because of like the internet. You're being exposed to to bad experiences." I'm just gonna say this: everything is subjective. Everything is subjective. People act according to their own experiences. Even if you do ban children from and young guys from accessing, like quote unquote extremist content or far right content, their personal experiences would still lead them to the same conclusion, if they, especially given the things. Because I've seen the videos, the police is doing nothing, and they're allowing immigrants to do whatever they want. They're allowing them to commit crimes, and then eventually, especially when you have the double standards, where like the police actually does arrest the native British, Scottish, Welsh, Northern Irish, English. Whenever they commit a crime, they arrest them immediately. But whenever an immigrant does the same crime, nothing happens. Then yeah, obviously you're gonna find people that will get radicalized through their own experiences. Even if you don't, even if they don't have access to the internet, they will still come to the same conclusions. If anything, I think the internet does like the opposite job. Like it actually unites people, especially video games. It makes people create connections with people of different races, ethnicities, different nationalities, and so you don't see that many backlash. But when you're seeing that happen in your country, and the police is not doing anything, and then there's a clear double standards, people will get radicalized eventually. It's just what happens. And if you don't want people getting radicalized, then you have to force the government, pressure the government into putting things back in control. It's sadly, that's just how it is.
And then the conquest guy, they're my age, and I fucking look at them and I'm like, you fuckers are traveling to different countries. You need to be the change. You can be a bro and not be racist. You can make a beer company and not be racist. It's totally possible. In closing, I want to speak to...
Well, the South African guy, he's probably like out of touch, I guess. Yeah, like because like really, that the issue is not happening in his home country. So really, he's more like a tourist complaining about Rome and Italy not really fulfilling the expectations, right? And I would feel the same way too, especially like say in Japan, for example. Or South Korea or China. Like I think of those three countries, and I think of their culture and society, and they're all clean. They're all very cordial. They all have good manners. They all are respectful. They all have like everything is in order. But then if I go to Japan or South Korea or China and then I'm not met with that expectations, I'll obviously complain. And then you have the Scottish guy with the bagpipes. He's just messing around and just basically trying to see if the people, especially in India, like have a problem with him doing things. And I'm just gonna tell you, eventually you're gonna find out. Like even he probably shows the videos in Indian to like even to the Indian. Even though he went to India, I bet I bet you he shows the news and everything that's going on in Britain and the UK, like, you know, the crimes that are being committed by like other Indians. He's showing that to the Indians in India, and I guarantee you they're in complete agreement with him. Yeah, the guy's a nutball. The authorities should do something about it. And so, if anything, the Scottish guy, eventually his own worldview will change and will be justified. It will be justified in the sense that it is a problem, but it will also change in the fact that not all Indians behave like this. That there are some that also agree with him that, yeah, the guy's a nutball. He should not be doing that over there. And then you, of course, you have the Canadian guy. I can really only say that the part where he lived probably was homogenous for long periods of times, and he grew up around just white people in general. And then it's a culture shock for him to see non-white people. Those are the logical explanations I can come up with these three individuals. Like, yes, I agree with them partially, but obviously I disagree with them in certain aspects. But that's normal.
All of the people who buy into this rhetoric, there's nothing to fear. You know, people in other countries are just humans living their lives, trying to exist, and when they go to your country...
And again, the rhetoric is not the issue. The issue is how many people are following the rhetoric. And if you don't like the rhetoric, you have to come up with a better counter argument. What Ian is saying is the exact same copy and pasted response that politicians and other liberals have said. And guess what? There are tons of videos that prove them wrong. What you actually need is government intervention to put people in control. And I think a better example is really back when like after the Civil War, the American military was stationed in the southern states in order to make sure that black people and white people wouldn't be fighting each other. And so that level of control and that level of military intervention and police intervention, that's what you need in order to keep people of different races and ethnicities in control. That's it. Like, that's what you need. You need control. When you lack control, it's all chaos.
They're also just trying to exist. And it's not a fight, it's not a war for whose culture is going to win out. It's going to be a mixture of cultures. You're going to have to deal with the fact that a mosque was erected in your city. Oh no, well guess what? You don't have to go to the mosque. It's not a crime for it to be in your line of sight. Before I go, I want to bring your guys' attention to some lawsuits that recently dropped. Frogan, Denims, and Casey Tron.
They're all guilty. Frogan tried to hide away. Casey Tron, I don't know what's going on with her. And then Denims, she literally decided to roast out.
Have all been sued, and they are trying to fight this off. I really believe
Denims roast out on the Reddit people from like the Snark subreddit because of the whole CBS call on Ethan Klein. By the way, huge W for Ethan Klein and Hila Klein. That's literally what happens when you try to mess with them. Really.
Even their cases, and I think it's important to either set a precedent or send a message that just because you're fucking rich and powerful doesn't mean that you can bully people on the internet.
It's
doesn't
not
mean
bullying.
You can bully women.
The women, the minorities, and all of those people that Ian is describing, they're the ones who bullied Ethan Klein and his family, his children especially. They're the ones who did the bullying first. Ethan Klein is just defending himself.
In minorities or fucking people who are poorer than you, and I think it would be good if they can continue to fight this off. So I'm going to put the links to their GoFundMes down below. Alright everyone, that is going to do it for this episode of Idubbz Complains. I will see you next time when I swing the candelabra.
How many 18 to 20 25-year-old farm-raised Amish dudes would it take fighting together on the same team to bring down one of those great big huge biggest of the big muscled up
Hola, Idubbz matitos. Bienvenidos de nuevo a Idubbz.
Porque el cumbiambero bebió y toneó de lo lindo. ¡Suave, Brian!
What
¡Come
the-
el sanguchito!
Well, okay, whatever.
Y después de varias copas, fue
Definitely,
quitado
I
del
can see why
estadio
people
por
dislike the
Tania
video.
Pantoja.
Idubbz
No
literally,
podía con la
literally did not. He basically just complained. Literally, what he did. He did not, but he didn't back up his things. He's just like saying, "Oh, but no, people are not behaving like that." And if people aren't really behaving like that, why don't you show videos that prove otherwise? Right? Because the reason as to why people are actually listening to the like people complaining about the mass migration in Europe and Canada is because they've had bad experiences, and there are tons of videos that show those bad experiences. If you show the good experiences, then that will outweigh, that will change things. But regardless, well, given the background noise, how it's annoying to deal with the background noise, I think I'm gonna have to cut this one short for today, because I'm sure you guys don't wanna deal with the background noise. So it's been 2 hours and 51 being alive. Go and thank you for watching, and have a nice day.